Your palms go damp. Your pulse spikes. There's no explanation ready, nothing you can do about it yet. What if the thing you can't control right now is the exact signal a predator is trained to find? But the real answer is far stranger than sweat. By the end of this, you'll know why fear has a smell, why animals can read it before you speak, and why your ancestors' survival depended on staying calm when it mattered most. Start with the body itself. The moment your brain registers a threat, a chain reaction begins before you're even aware of it. The amygdala, the almond-shaped alarm center deep in your brain, fires a signal to your hypothalamus. Within seconds, your adrenal glands flood your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate climbs, your blood vessels constrict, and your apocrine glands, a special class of sweat glands packed into your armpits and scalp, switch on. This isn't the sweat that cools you down after a run. This is a different kind, entirely thicker, protein-rich, and chemically loaded with the exact hormones your body just released. You didn't choose to produce it. You couldn't stop it if you tried. Here's where it gets interesting. In 2022, researcher Clara Wilson at Queen's University Belfast ran an experiment that sounds almost too simple to matter. She collected breath and sweat samples from people right after a stressful task and separate samples from the same people while they were calm. Then she gave both samples to trained dogs. The dogs weren't just able to tell the difference. They picked out the stress samples with more than 90% accuracy every time across multiple dogs and multiple people. Nothing about the samples looked different. Nothing sounded different. The only thing that had changed was chemistry you can't see, drifting invisibly off your skin. So the question isn't whether fear has a scent. It clearly does. The real question is whether predators evolved to notice it, and why that would matter enough to survive millions of years of natural selection. Rewind further, long before dogs were domesticated, long before humans built shelters or lit fires on purpose. Your ancestors lived every single day inside a food chain that didn't care about their intelligence. Large cats, wild dogs, and other apex predators had been hunting primates for longer than primates had been walking upright. And predators don't waste energy chasing everything that moves. Hunting is expensive. A missed chase can cost a predator calories it may not get back. So evolution rewarded predators that could read the difference between prey that was calm, alert, and ready to fight, and prey that was already collapsing on the inside. This is where the science gets even stranger, because it isn't only about sweat. In 1991, researchers Zalaquit and Thiessen documented what's now called an alarm substance in rodents, a chemical released by a stressed or injured animal that instantly changes the behavior of every other rodent nearby. The moment that signal hits the air, calm animals freeze, scatter, or go rigid, all without a single sound. It's a warning broadcast in pure chemistry. And if prey animals evolve to send and detect that signal among themselves, it isn't a stretch that predators, sharing the same air, the same forests, the same evolutionary arms race, would evolve the sensitivity to pick it up too. Smell doesn't ask permission. It doesn't require eye contact, and it can't be faked the way a brave face can. Think about what that arms race actually looks like across millions of years. Every generation of prey that leaked a little less chemical signal under stress had a slightly better chance of walking away from an encounter. Every generation of predator that could detect that signal a little more precisely had a slightly better chance of a successful hunt. Neither side ever won outright. Instead, both sides kept adapting against each other, prey getting quieter on a chemical level, predators getting sharper at picking up whatever leaked through. Anyway, that's not a metaphor. It's measurable biology, the same evolutionary pressure that shaped claws, camouflage, and speed. Except this time, it shaped something you can't see and mostly can't control, the chemistry drifting off your own skin. And this wasn't limited to any one species or any one environment. Zebras on the open savanna, rabbits in dense hedgerows, early hominins moving in small groups across the grasslands of East Africa, all of them were running the same experiment in real time, whether they knew it or not. The ones who could regulate their nervous system under pressure survived to pass that regulation down. The ones who couldn't often didn't get the chance to. Multiply that selection pressure across hundreds of thousands of generations, and you get a nervous system, yours, built from the ground up to manage a leak it can't fully stop because managing it, even imperfectly, used to be the difference between living and not. Which brings us to the human side of this story, and to a study that changed how scientists think about fear entirely. In 2009, neuroscientist Liliane Mujica-Parodi collected sweat from first-time skydivers in the seconds before they jumped out of a plane, real, involuntary fear, not performed or imagined. She compared it to sweat collected from the same people while they calmly exercised on a treadmill. Then she had a separate group of volunteers smell both samples while lying inside an fMRI scanner. The volunteers couldn't consciously tell the samples apart. They reported no difference at all. But their brain scans told a completely different story. When they inhaled the skydiving sweat, their amygdala lit up, the exact same fear center that had activated in the skydivers themselves. Fear had transferred from one nervous system to another, silently, through the nose, without either person saying a single word. Think about what that means. For your ancestors, standing in tall grass with a predator somewhere nearby, staying outwardly calm was never enough. Your body was leaking the truth the entire time, whether you wanted it to or not. Now here comes the twist, and it isn't the one most people expect. It wasn't sweat that made you vulnerable. It wasn't even the chemical itself. It was what the chemical revealed underneath it, the freeze. Predators across the animal kingdom are built to detect motion and stillness with extraordinary precision, because in nature, sudden stillness almost always means something is wrong. When fear floods your system, one of its first jobs isn't to make you run. It's to make you stop, to lock your muscles for a fraction of a second while your brain decides whether fighting, fleeing, or freezing gives you the best odds. That freeze, that half second of hesitation, paired with the chemical signature drifting off your skin, is the real signal predators evolved to notice. Not fear as an emotion, fear as a full-body malfunction, visible and invisible at the same time. That's why staying calm was never just a mindset for early humans. It was survival technology. The steadier you could keep your body, the fewer chemical and behavioral cues you leaked into the environment around you. Populations that could regulate their fear response, slow the freeze, mask the tremor, control the breath, had a measurable edge over populations that couldn't. Over hundreds of thousands of years, that edge shaped the nervous system you carry today, which is exactly why this still matters right now in a world with no lions hiding in the grass. Your body hasn't updated its threat detection system. Walk into a job interview, and your palms still go damp before your mouth opens. Stand up to speak in front of a room, and your heart still races like something ancient is deciding whether to run. Sit across from someone during a difficult conversation, and they can often sense your nervousness before you say a word, not because they're reading your mind, but because they're reading the same invisible signals a predator once used to choose its next move. Your coworkers, your friends, even strangers on a first date, are unconsciously scanning for the exact freeze and leak response your ancestors spent millennia trying to hide. Even the animals living alongside you today haven't stopped reading it. Ask anyone who's worked closely with dogs, and they'll tell you an anxious owner tends to raise an anxious dog, not just from tone of voice or body language, but from something the dog is picking up that the owner can't even name. Therapy dogs are trained around this exact sensitivity because the animals often notice a spike in human anxiety before the human consciously registers it themselves. The channel between species that your ancestors relied on to survive a predator never closed. It just changed which species is on the other end of it. And it isn't only about being read by others. It's about how you read yourself. That damp palm, that racing heart walking into a room that matters. Most people interpret those signals as proof that something is wrong, that they aren't ready, that they should be worried. But those signals are simply your ancestors' alarm system firing on schedule, exactly as it was built to. The sensation itself was never the danger. It was only ever information. And for most of human history, the animals reading that information decided whether you lived through the day. And that reframed something most people get completely backwards. Confidence was never really about eliminating fear. It's about what your ancestors mastered first, controlling the leak, slowing the breath, loosening the freeze before it locks your whole body in place. The people who seem naturally calm under pressure aren't feeling less fear than you. They've simply inherited, or trained, a nervous system that leaks less of it. So the next time your palms go damp before a moment that matters, remember what that sweat actually is. It isn't weakness. It's one of the oldest alarm systems ever built, still running exactly as designed, still trying to protect you from something that hasn't chased you in 10,000 years. There's a strange kind of comfort in that. You aren't malfunctioning under pressure. You're running code written by ancestors who survived encounters you'll never have to face, refined generation after generation until it became automatic, instant, and completely outside your conscious control. The system was never broken. It was built for a world with teeth in the grass, and it hasn't gotten the memo that the grass is mostly safe now. When your pulse spikes in the dark, you aren't just feeling fear, you are broadcasting it. To a predator, your sweat is a glowing neon sign. What exactly is your biology revealing when you're terrified? The answer is the chemical signature of terror. That deep dive is dropping next on this channel.